the meeting to order. Isaac, you want to call the roll?
Doug Benschoter. Mary French.
Here.
Stephanie Garner.
Here.
Dave Huser.
Here.
Dave Larson.
Here.
John Meyer.
Here.
Kate Payne.
Here.
Kathy Olson.
Here.
Heidi Solheim.
Here.
Wonderful. Do I have a motion for the approval of the agenda as printed?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved. Minutes for the February 3rd, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve these?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have no public hearing, so regular business. Plat of Survey for the former Red Fox Inn. Isaac, do you want to fill us in?
Absolutely. So, Red Fox Inn has presented a Plat of Survey to create Parcel EE. Essentially what the applicant is looking to do is split off the rear building from the pool and the front building. The rear building will be used as apartments, and then the plan is to use the front building as a hotel. He has included a common wall and easement agreement. This is written up by Bo Buchholz. It details how access will be to the Parcel EE. They're providing for an access easement to, let's see, 20th Street, yes, 20th Street Southwest, as well as across the parking lot to Heritage Way. And then we also have Lindsay Lambert, excuse me, the Building and Zoning Administrator, and she has said that the Type X drywall that's been installed is sufficient to comply with the zero lot line separation. So generally when we see like duplexes or zero lot line residential properties, they require a firewall all the way through. So we got approval from Lindsay from that aspect. We do have the applicant here today, and staff has no recommendation. We haven't heard anything from the public on this request.
The questions?
So the purpose of this would be to enable selling off of that, I'll call it the rear or the east portion?
That's not the intention.
Please come to the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
State your name and your address.
Nick Graham, Wellsburg, Iowa. I'm the developer and GC on the Red Fox project. To your question, Ms. Olson, yes, technically we probably could parcel off the two buildings. That is not our intention. The driving force behind this is purely financial. The hospitality portion is eligible for a pretty attractive SBA program that's really going to let us go the extra mile on delivering a best-in-class venue in hotel out there. The challenge is multifamily is an eligible use for the SBA 504 program. So if we parcel it off, we solve that issue.
Okay, so that means that, I'll call it the west or the front portion, then that would be the part that would be developed first, or is the east side of that already developed? I mean,
the east building is all done. It's all developed. And the east building was built in 1978 or 9. The west building and pool were built in 74. So they're separate structures anyways, but our goal is to just be able to parcel it off for financing purposes.
okay, so it's a disadvantage to have it connected to the east portion.
Yes.
You mentioned the drywall is sufficient, but what about the windows?
The windows are sufficient, and we've also, I had Bo draft a permanent access agreement across from to the two buildings for fire egress. And
How much stuff goes between that, across that firewall?
nothing.
Nothing at all.
No.
But there are windows in that firewall?
There's windows in there. That's it. Yes.
What are they rated?
Lindsay was fine with it. The rating on it, I don't know.
I'm looking through the email that I have attached. talks a little bit, but it's mostly focused on the firewall. So,
Yeah, but firewalls with openings in them, if you don't have a certain clearance, have to be rated, and that's the question.
Was that then the last one where it talks about building code and party walls? So it's saying here that a firewall is not required on lot lines dividing a building for ownership purposes. So I mean, is this part of the justification of why it doesn't need to be fire rated?
yeah, and like I said, we reached out, we know that from a residential standpoint, when you have the 0 lot line, we are familiar with what they've been requiring. So we reached out to Lindsay and we said, hey, what are you going to require for this to be okay? We want you to be okay with it before we proceed with potentially approving a plat of survey. This is the email that she sent back saying that she is okay with us proceeding with approval of the plat of survey. So beyond that, I can't speak a lot to what's not included in the email that she sent, excuse me.
Well, going back to the attachment, the building code, party walls, openings shall be in accordance with section 402-4221. Are they in accordance, those openings? Because normally, if you've got residential 0 lot line, you have no openings on that lot line. This one, you do, you've got another building within a certain amount of feet, and if you don't have enough clearance, the wall as well as the openings on both sides have to be rated.
And again, without having a lot of knowledge of the building code, all I can do is I can point you to the second paragraph of the email that Lindsay sent addressing the, I would be fine approving this plat if they have a recorded access easement, which they do, in place to comply with 2018 IBC 706.1.1 party walls, exception 2 attached. They are in compliance with all height and area requirements. This easement would also ensure egress for the apartments through the pool area should ownership change down the road.
So because I came at it from a similar point of view to Mary, I pulled the fire code on the construction of firewalls before I showed up tonight. And the openings are definitely a question for me, but I'm not sure that it's our purview to evaluate that, really. I mean, I question it because it's just my default way of thinking. But I agree. I mean, I feel like the openings are definitely not consistent with a firewall. I mean, it really says specifically, openings should not be, there's an exception that openings shall not be limited to 156 square feet where both buildings are equipped throughout with an automatic sprinkler system. So.
The building is sprinkled.
Okay.
Okay.
Are both buildings sprinkled?
The pool in the apartment complex are fully sprinkled. We're in the process of installing the sprinklers in the hotel. That should be done in the next 3 months. But yes, the entire facility will be sprinkled by midsummer.
Don't we have to rely upon the building inspector, I think? So, I mean,
It's true, we do. I mean, it's just sort of, it's an unusual condition, and it's usually very hard to get a firewall approved in an existing condition.
this is kind of because it's the pool, it's not like it's another residential situation, so you've got probably, 100 foot before you get to any of the motel rooms?
I don't think the code cares about that. But.
No, but I
Well,
mean,
yeah, there is a certain distance. If the buildings are a certain distance apart, you don't have to have them rated. So, yes, but.
that's where I was.
Yeah, there's to your point, Dave, there's at least 100 feet between the end of the residential and the lobby.
I think my only takeaway from it is that it probably just needs to be clear that this is an exception for how a firewall is constructed, and that just needs to be understood.
So
Because
question I have is if the state fire marshal, do they need to be involved just so you don't get into an issue where you're ready to open or have occupancy?
It's already
It's already been approved through
It's
them?
all been walked through and
Okay.
signed off on, and
Okay.
I mean, there's a 24/7 fire alarm throughout the whole building. It's all, I mean, even the pool's sprinkled. The odds of the water setting on fire are probably less than zero, but the pool is sprinkled.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the plat survey for the former Red Fox Inn to the City Council.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. Item number 2, Plat of Survey for Parcel FF.
Thanks, everybody.
Isaac, do you want to fill us in?
Yes, so this plat would be to create Parcel FF. It's Waverly Child Care is the applicant. They're simply looking to combine their two existing lots on Bremer Avenue into one large lot. They're looking to do an expansion onto the western lot that would cross property lines. In order to do that, we said you need to do a plat of survey, make it one big parcel. So that's what they're presenting. Once they actually go through the actual building of it, they'll have to comply with zoning regulations, building, all that good stuff. But right now, they're just setting it up so that they can get to that point. So staff's recommendation is to approve the plat of survey.
Is there discussion? Do I have a motion?
I'll move that Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the plat of survey to create Parcel FF to the City Council.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item 3, R2 and R3 code changes. Isaac?
Yeah, so we went over the R2 and R3, I believe in February. Since then, really the only change that staff has presented is if you look at R2 section 100.7.03, we are now proposing to strike section A, the minimum lot size, and then we are just adding width and depth dimensions for single-family detached, two-family, and single-family attached. So 65 foot wide, 100 feet deep, that would be equal to what we were proposing for the minimum lot size. We felt that we would rather have requirements on what the minimum width and minimum depth would be. We felt like having those requirements and then also having minimum lot size requirements, they're the same things, because the minimum lot size was going to be the lot size if you had 65 by 100 or 35 by 100. And then we did the same thing in R3, section 100.8.031A. Again, we just proposing to strike that. And then we added the one family because R3 does allow for a single family cluster development. So we wanted to make sure that we addressed minimum lot width and depth sizes for single family. And if we want to go over everything, we can. But other than that, the rest of the changes were the same that we presented in February for discussion.
So when I look at the math, and I'm probably missing something, they look like the dimensions are quite a bit smaller, like 6,500 square feet for the single family, 6,500 square feet for the two family, and
Sorry,
3,500. So if I look at number B,
Are you looking at R2 or R3? Just so make sure I'm on the right one.
7.03. So the first section that's redlined.
R2.
Yes, okay, so single-family detached, 65 by 100, and then the single-family attached, those would be your zero lot line single-family homes. So what, essentially, with the one side, it would be right on the side property line, the zero lot line, and then we have moved to doing it 35 feet because then you just need to meet the 7.5 foot side yard requirement on the other side. You don't need as large of a lot for that. The 45 feet, we felt like if you take 7.5 feet, I mean, you've got a pretty large area of lot that you'd be building on.
So the minimum lot size, is that taking into account the, I'm just looking at A that's struck out. Is there something subtracted from that when you do the lot dimensions? I'm just looking at, we went from 4,950 to 3,500. So over 1,000 square feet that we reduced it to. And I might be missing, like if the, I'm not getting the right term,
Yeah. The lots are
easement.
smaller.
Yeah, I mean, they're, okay.
If that's the total lot
Yeah.
size, then they're smaller than what they were.
You're saying single-family detached, for example, goes from 7,150 down to 6,500.
Yes.
Yeah. So it seems like, to me, it seems like a substantial change. It's not a minor change, but I don't know.
No. You also have a typo on B, minimum lot width and depth is not crossed out, it needs to be kept there.
Yes.
And then you need to delete width on 1, 2, and 3.
Would it help, Bill, if you explained what you were thinking about when, maybe that would take care of, I think I know, but I think it's,
So we're
Yeah,
trying
Heidi, a little
to,
bit.
we're trying to keep the structures would be the same size. And before, if you had a single structure, you could have a bigger lot than you could have if you had two structures. And we were just basically trying to have the frontages be the same on each side. So you basically have the same setbacks on each side. And we are trying to make it so that we can build reasonably small homes without going below a certain level, because that's what's happening in a lot of places. There's a lot of housing that's being done at that minimal size. And as our prices go up and as our lot sizes go down and everything is more expensive, we want to provide options. Now, this is a minimum, not, what you can do if you're doing what you want. You can make it wider, you can make it deeper. We're just trying to come up with what is the minimal size that we're doing. So the actual lot itself, sometimes these are even bigger than the ones, some of the developments we've seen in other areas where they don't even have as much as that depth. So we just want to keep it, and make it, when we started looking at the 3s and the 4s, they didn't match up either. And that's what we're trying to do is to show the setbacks on each side of the structure of whether it's 2, 3, or 4, and make that make sense. That's pretty much what we talked about.
Overall, it will increase density, though, if it's done to the minimum, right?
Yeah.
well, I think you're going to see that because the cost of development.
I'm fine with it. I think
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that was our thought, is that we want to make sure that the structures were going to be the same no matter what you're doing, as far as the unit size and that kind of thing. So we're trying to do the minimum.
Further discussion?
Thank you, Bill.
Is there a motion?
I move the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the Plat of Survey to create parcel FF.
no.
No, wrong one. Move the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the changes to section 100.7, 100.8 of the Waverly Municipal Code to the City Council.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Item 4, Chapter 72, Urban Chicken Code Changes. Isaac.
Okay, so we discovered this because an individual applied for a chicken permit. They're a single-family residential house, but they were not located in an R1 zone. They were located in an R2 zone. The way our code is written right now, they were located in I believe, a commercial zone. So right now, the way our code is written, and you have to be in a residential zone, you also have to be a single-family residential property, have chickens. We have multiple single-family residences throughout the community that are not located in residential zones. We had a special provisional use 2 months ago of an example of that. They're just placed there because they just happen to be near commercial, or they're in agriculture, we discovered. So right now, if somebody came, they were zoned agricultural, we wouldn't be able to issue them a chicken permit. So we wanted to just strike this section that talks about lying within residential zoning districts, and just do simply single-family residential properties. So if you're a single-family residential property, you'd be allowed to apply for and get a urban chicken permit. All the other restrictions and requirements would remain in place. This is be the only change to this code section.
Is there discussion, questions?
Are they limited to the quantity of chickens?
Yes, the 4 hens, no roosters.
How do we police that?
I get sent out to do inspections.
You weren't on when we did this.
I believe right now we have 6 properties with active chicken permits, something like that. So we don't have a lot, but we do have some.
Do you do surprise visits?
When we get complaints, so.
Any other questions, comments? Is
Do
there
you
motion?
distinguish between urban chickens and rural chickens?
We haven't started, but I'm not sure what the difference would be. But
Do I have a motion?
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the changes to Chapter 72 of the Waverly Municipal Code to City Council.
For a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Let's vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Item 5, Chapter 64 Weeds Code Changes. Isaac?
Weeds and chickens.
alrighty, so last time we brought this, we had discussion. A lot of it was around landscaping and how we would police that. I will point out Section 64.41A, landscaping shall be allowed in all yards, and then it'll be up to discretion of city staff to determine what's landscaping and when landscaping turns into a nuisance. And then we also did some changes to buffer areas. It was 10 feet that we'd presented before. We have bumped that down to 5 feet. And then we also changed Tier 3 properties shall be exempt from maintaining a 5-foot buffer when abutting Tier 1 or Tier 2 properties. Tier 3 properties would be agricultural in use, stormwater detention, retention areas, parks, open spaces, urban woodlots, natural reserves, etc. The reason that we decided to make this exception is Tier 3 requires a permit to be approved by leisure service staff and community development staff. It also requires a maintenance plan to be turned in to us, citing what they're going to be planting, how they're going to be maintaining it, and then agricultural properties, they're going to be exempt because of the use of agriculture on the property. So we felt like Tier 3, we would be okay with exempting them from maintaining that 5-foot buffer. So the Tier 3, we added in a little bit more wordage about what type of properties would be Tier 3. Other than that, those changes, for the most part, it's pretty much the same document that we presented in February.
Can a property or development fall into more than one tier? And I'll give you Eisenach as the example, Eisenach Village, because you've got the residential area with the trimmed grass, and then you've got the area around the pond that is prairie grass.
Yeah, something like that. If it's somebody that came in and applied for it and they wanted to do something like that, we'd probably have them designate, like, we are going to designate this specific area, and then we'll have like an aerial picture highlighted where exactly on the property is going to be Tier 2, so that we have that documentation. That's probably how we would end up handling that situation.
How about along the railroad tracks?
That would be railroad right-of-way, so I guess we specified right-of-way ditches inside city limits. I mean, you specified right-of-way ditches, but I think that if they maintained it so that it's not having noxious weeds, I understand the look you're giving me right now,
Yeah.
but.
Can I put my complaint in now?
I would say that if it's maintained, it would probably fall under a tier 3, but tier 3 they're still required to be kept free of noxious weeds. So they would still be required to maintain that and treat that if there's noxious weeds located in the right of way.
I think the homeowners association of ISNOC really should take care of it.
We can't touch it. We don't have a homeowners association.
No, you don't have one?
No. I'll just call Isaac and complain.
The description in Tier 3 seems contradictory. It's, you're talking about urban woodlots, natural reserve and preserve areas, prairie grass, wildflower, wildlife refuges, and conservation areas, but they can't have volunteer trees, brush, or vegetation.
So,
I just, it seems that if it's a conservation area, that means you have to actually go in and plant all the trees that you want in that area?
well, so we added that in, so we talked with, and Paul Chevelle's not here tonight, but when we had a meeting and we talked about this, and he brought forward code that was, I believe was from Ames, and they talked about this, and we can add the definition that they had for volunteer trees, brushes, or other vegetation. Basically, that definition talked about if you have like an agricultural lot where you're specifically planting agricultural crop, and then in the middle of it you have a volunteer tree, or you have a detention area and then it has a volunteer tree in the middle of it. That is where we would enforce that, not in the urban woodlots, because the woodlots would naturally have trees there. That's the nature of the property, where retention, detention would not naturally have that. Like if they specifically plant it, obviously that's different. So we can go back and we can grab that definition to be more specific about that.
Or can you just address that in the maintenance permit?
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, if it's a natural area, it's going to have volunteer trees and brush.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I guess I wouldn't see where that is a problem. But
Yeah.
Additional comments, questions? Motion?
I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the changes to Chapter 64 of the Waverly Municipal Code to the City Council.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Old business?
So I passed out MSA project update. Obviously, they're not here tonight, but they wanted to update the commission on what is happening with the Waverly Comprehensive Plan. So they have scheduled a couple of different meetings. The next one that will be coming up, will be a community input workshop. This will be April 27th from 6 to 8 p.m. in the Civic Center. Essentially what they're going to be doing is they're going to be doing a little presentation about comprehensive plan, park and open space plan, bike and pedestrian plan, Memorial Park master plan, and then they'll have different stations set up in the Civic Center, going into a little bit more detail about each one of these plans. They're going to do a couple of presentations, so if you get there right at 6 or you get there at 7:30, you'll still have an opportunity to kind of see what's going on. They'll have a good amount of staff there to answer questions from community. We invite this entire commission to attend. You don't feel the need to be there from 6 to 8, but if you want to stop in, like I said, they'll have a lot of information. They're also planning on doing a pop-up meeting May 7th during the art walk. They're just going to have a tent, again, with information and different tables set up, going over the various plans. And then they'll be in town on 3 different dates, April 27th, May 7th, and then May 10th, doing community touring. That'll be mostly for the park and open space plan, bike and pedestrian plan, and Memorial Park master plan. And then the next big thing that'll be coming up for you guys, the Planning, Zoning, Waverly Leisure Service and Commission meets, and then the late May joint P&Z Board of Adjustments Economic Development Workshop. We sent out an email and a doodle poll to the commission members here, I believe this last week, about this meeting. Right now, it's looking like May 24th is likely going to be when that meeting is. That's a Tuesday night, 6 to 8. Once we get that more nailed down, I'll send out additional information to all the commission members. But just keep that date in mind, because that's looking like when that's going to be. So again, that'd be something where we want to get as many commission members there as possible. We understand you have other things going on, but like I said, we'd like to get as many people there as possible. So
What was that date again?
I'm sorry,
May 24th.
May 24th.
I'm just looking at the April 27th, I just think.
Yep, and when the April 27th gets closer, I'll send out another email kind of reminding people. So I'll try to keep everybody in the loop as best as possible. So. And that's the old business I have.
What was the time on the 24th?
6 to 8.
6 to 8, again, that's not set in stone, and I'll keep everybody updated.
Okay. Any further old business?
I do not have any more old business.
Okay. New business?
New business, first I'd like to introduce John Meyer to the commission. He is filling our open spot. So, welcome, John.
Welcome, John.
I'm a native of Waverly, but I was gone for 45 years. I was born and raised here. My dad had a business here starting in the 1930s, and my brother took it over in 1960 and ran it until he died in 2017. It was a blacksmith shop and welding business on the south edge of town. And my career, I left here after high school and went to Iowa State. Notices, and got an engineering degree. Got a degree in civil engineering, and I worked for city government for 22 years as city engineer, public works director, and then taught for a year at Hawkeye, civil engineering technology, and then spent 20 years in Fairfield, Iowa with an engineering and surveying firm. And then I retired and came back to Waverly to be reasonably close to my grandchildren up in Osage. And my daughter and son-in-law too, but, I had known Mike Cherry for 20 years or more, and he offered me a job part-time working for the city engineering office. So I did that for 7 years and ended that relationship at the end of 2001, or 2021, I'm sorry. And I saw this come up, and I thought, gee, it might be fun.
Welcome. Welcome.
Most times it is.
Yes. Some days more than others.
I loved your description of your closeness to your family as reasonable.
Well, my wife wanted to move to Osage, and I said 40 minutes is good. Fairfield, 8 hours of windshield time to watch a T-ball game when they were little was pretty intense, or an elementary concert. But this is good. You can get up there and get back, and
Heidi, do you have an announcement?
Yes, today is my last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Just due to family work and other volunteer opportunities, I just need to step away and work at that. But it's been a fun, about 7.5 years. I've learned a lot during that time and got to be a part of the community with it. So thank you all for the mentoring. I think Kate and I joined same month or so, and Kathy wasn't too far before us. So, but I just appreciate all the support from the city staff and this group here helping us work through, and the history. I know Hank is off the board now, but David and those that really knew the history helped us along. So thank you.
I was sorry to see you go.
Yeah, you've done a great job.
Thank you. It's been fun. It's just, life is just too fast right now to try to keep up.
It's also my last meeting. My term is up, and I decided not to extend it, so you're losing me as well. So John's going to represent Iowa State to keep up the numbers on
We
Iowa
got
State.
Dave and me and
Yeah,
John.
yeah. So,
Still good.
so
I have no allegiance. I have no allegiance.
So Isaac, do you want to bring up the,
Yeah, so first, I just want to thank both of you for the service that you put on this commission. The city greatly appreciates it, and thank you for the work and the time that you guys have both put in. And we wish you well with whatever you guys decide to do next, so. However, with the two openings, staff did want to bring up I know that it was brought up briefly at a previous meeting, but we wanted to bring up the idea of bringing this commission back down to 7 members instead of 9. And we wanted to see what this commission thought about doing that. It would be a decision that would ultimately be made by the city council, but we wanted to bring it before you guys, see what you thought. If you guys are absolutely against it, obviously we're not going to pursue it. But just with the 2 openings, we had some difficulties filling Rich Dane's spot until John showed up. So before we started really advertising to fill these 2 positions, like I said, we just wanted to have that conversation with you guys.
Why did we go to 9?
Well, that kind of, I don't remember if it was Hank, but we were having a hard time getting quorum, so I think he thought if we had more members, we'd be able to always have a quorum. And I think that kind of backfired in this last year, it seemed like. I'd mentioned it to the mayor that I thought maybe it's something we ought to think about going back, because I don't think it was fulfilling the purpose that originally and I was for that. I thought maybe that would help. It didn't make a difference there, but I don't have a problem with going back, but.
Well, does the whole quorum issue get resolved a little bit by the access to, say, a Zoom or a Zoom meeting, or is that no longer going to be allowed?
I think our preference would be we are always full-time here. That would be our strong preference. I mean, there's been situations where it's helped, but at the same time, having 2 members on Zoom and everybody else in here, obviously there's been some communication issues, so it would be staff's strong preference that we're either all on Zoom in a case where we have a pandemic or something, or we're all here. So that would be staff's preference.
We felt that was, there's some question about trying to do it with a couple people in different places, and we really haven't answered that as a city yet, as to whether or not we're going to do that hybrid type model. Again, if you're going to do it all in one way or another, then somebody can get on also and watch it and participate if they need to. So at this point, we're going to hope to have enough. And if you have 9, you have to have a 5 quorum. If you have 7, you have 4. So it's still that 4 threshold that we have to get to. So.
well, Heidi,
So that doesn't-
are we replaceable?
I don't know.
And we don't have as many volunteers for different commissions as we have, it seems like in the past, but, so it is a struggle at times.
So it doesn't really answer the question. I know I'll be gone for a couple months.
And Doug's the same
And I
way.
suspect Doug would be similar. So there you've got 2 of your members potentially gone. And, if that means, and maybe that just means replace. And, that's another option.
We'll still work it out for after the winter season is now over. The idea of whether we actually formalize that, because if we formalize that and the council wants to do it, we'll just do that and we'll say that applies to commissions. And we'd rather do it that way than just kind of think, are we doing the right thing or not? That was one of our, when the governors had that proclamation that kind of allowed you to do this kind of thing for councils, we kind of said that went to commissions too. Now there's certain commissions that like to do it a lot. So we're trying to decide whether we need to codify that in the city before we do it. And if we do codify it, it works. We can make it work because people can hear and see the person. So it does work to do it. So we'd rather do it formally. But at this point, we haven't seen the numbers really improve at all for having 9 instead of 7. And maybe people feel like, well, there's enough people that somebody else will be there for me or something. I don't know, but it just seemed to work out that we've had issues with quorum no matter what. So.
Well, I think you have better discussion when people are present, that 2 meetings ago, and we had a couple, I think you and Doug were on
Yeah.
Zoom. It was just an awful tough meeting to have good discussion. Because I think the two of you were on Zoom, and I just think it's much better in person. I understand that, I could be down that path here.
Especially, especially when we have public hearing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it really, I think that even complicated it more two meetings ago.
When it's a more in-depth conversation than chickens.
The queuing is not always good, because you can't tell, the person that's on Zoom tends to just kind of, they can't see what other people are getting ready to talk and all that.
Well, that goes to the quality of the technology can make a huge difference in whether that can be successful or not. With the current technology in this room, it's not successful. But I have been in places where it works better. But on the whole, I would say that one of the big lessons of all of this is that it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
It's one way or the other way, because the hybrid just doesn't work.
At least with the monitors,
most
we
places.
can participate and we can get that happening, right? Or it's on the big ones or on the individual ones? When you did hybrids at such a...
Oh, we had them on this computer,
Okay, yeah.
and then,
So that you heard that? Yeah, you could just hear that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Well-
we made it work, but it wasn't
Ideal.
preferable. So,
Any further discussion on that?
How many members are on some of the other commissions? Are they similar, 7 or 9 or more or less?
so Board of Adjustments is 5. I guess you're on Economic Development. How many does the Economic Development have?
We have 9,
Okay.
and then we have, I invited about 9 or 10 more for just discussion purposes.
Sure.
And it's not really, this is a body that does a lot of recommending and a lot of kind of decision-making. Economic development's more thought, discussion, those kinds of things. They do vote on recommending things for development agreements, that kind of thing, but it's more of a discussion thing, so.
How about leisure services?
They're smaller. I think they're 7, aren't they?
I'm not sure. I was thinking 7 as well.
And Golf Commission's like 5.
I was thinking Golf Commission's fairly small.
Historic Preservation's probably up, that's at 7 or 8 or 9.
Historic Preservation 7.
Yeah, 7.
I was just curious.
So I mean, 7, it would be consistent. I mean, 9's, that's still consistent. It's more just, like I said, we wanted to hear what you guys thought. If you had strong opinions one way or another, didn't really care one way or another. We just wanted to let you guys have the discussion, let us know what you want us to do. So
If
We'll
there's
probably take this
7
to study session.
and 2 people are gone for 3 or 4 months, we have 5 people who are here regularly. A quorum is 4.
Mhm.
So only 1 person can be absent.
Which is, it's usually January, February, March that we're talking about, those 3 months. We would probably be moving, we might move meeting times around for that reason, just to say if somebody can't be there. You hate to do it that way, but we also may have that change by being able to have somebody participate remotely.
Well, I think
We'd just like to
this-
get it
yeah.
cleared up for that.
This commission, too, more than, I think, any of the rest of them, you have to really, are we the only one that's 5 years, too? Or are more of them 5 years?
5, that's quite a bit for, I think most of them are 3, aren't they?
Right, I think ours is longer, but it
I know
takes a
Board of
couple of
Adjustments is
years.
5 because every year 1 member is up.
Okay.
Oh, that's why, yeah.
But like, it's really, it takes a couple of years of being on this commission before you even know what's going on. So to try to get 9 people fully engaged during that whole time is, I think you're always going to be losing people fairly.
And for this commission, it really becomes problematic when we have development people coming in and not giving us enough notice to get things, and then they want it on, and we have to get to the council. So we're trying to get it scheduled here before we get to the council. And that becomes, but that's just our issue that we have to deal with the people that come in. We want them to understand the trajectory of how this works. It's a 2-month process to look at some of these things, and they always want to do it in 4 weeks if they can do it that way. And So we try to do the best we can to accommodate that as much as possible. But we also give a lot of notice for our meetings, and so you have to have the information in to the city clerk by, what, 2 weeks before? Or at least, so that that adds 2 weeks onto that, so. But we'll work on that issue of letting the council make a decision about having hybrid meetings at times, and we'll try to emphasize that we really want to have people in person, especially for those public hearings. I think that would be hard to have several people on that way, so. I think at this point, we'll probably take it to the study session this month and raise the issue, because that way we could start with if everybody said, yeah, I think that's a good idea, they could probably do it in 2 readings, just have the public hearing and the second reading, and then do the second and third reading together, so we can get somebody, if we have to, if they're going to say, you got to be 9, then we have to start scrambling for people to do it. So.
I know I'm a newbie here, but I worked in Davenport, Oskaloosa, Newton, Waterloo, and during the 20 years of consulting, I went to Ottumwa, Mount Pleasant, Burlington, and I don't know of any of them that had a 9-member P&Z. There were some that were only 5, but 7 seems to be the number. I don't, whatever that's worth. Mm-hmm. You want to compare yourself to somewhere else. But.
Well, yeah, I'm not hearing any real objections, so I think we may just go ahead and proceed with that study session topic, and then we can be prepared to have our first reading.
Well, if it becomes a difficulty, there's always the option to bump it back up.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't know how you measure that, though, because sometimes it's a membership that you have on. And, it depends on who applies. And, we've had an issue with a few that just, it was like hit and miss. And so that makes it difficult when most of us make an effort to make it every time, and because it is once a month. But we understand things happen and things come up, so.
I just hate that they're all, first week is, every night's killed because of board meetings, it seems like.
Is there a different week that you'd rather have?
No.
Second or third week?
No, get them all done the first week.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I picked it, because the first week, Thursday, I don't have anything.
Oh, there you go.
Same thing, I've moved everything to the first 2 weeks of the month, and
See, the Economic Development Commission is all saying, hey, we want to meet on Zoom, especially during the winter.
Well, you guys also meet at like 7 o'clock in the
7
morning.
o'clock in the morning, so.
Oh, that's
There's no better time to meet.
Yeah, it actually works pretty well, except when I was doing it on Zoom, I had to get up here at 6 o'clock or 6:30 to get everything rolling, and so that was a pretty early morning when you're doing that, so. No, I don't.
anything else? Any other new business?
I do not have any.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
You do.
All right, we're adjourned.